we're here to talk to you about data literacy and the Socrata Data Academy. And thanks, Robyn, for being here with us today and for working with us over the past year on all this great stuff. Thank you. So the Socrata Data Academy is an initiative started by Socrata that came out of our work with all of you over the past several years, but has really been something that we've worked on to get started and kick off and get going over the last year. Socrata is a tool that you all are familiar with. It's platforms and solutions that help to make data within your government organization more accessible and discoverable and usable by your own folks as well as folks in your community. But what we found in doing that work with all of you is that although the solutions and the tools were available, there was still something that was needed, and that was the data literacy skills to be able to know how to solve problems and how to do analysis on that data. And so the Socrata Data Academy came out of our recognition of that need and our desire to work with you all to help to fill that skills gap and bring more data literacy skills or lift up the data literacy skills within your organizations. There's some technology that we have there. Thanks, Oliver. One of the things that makes the Socrata Data Academy interesting is because we have the technology available, that it's really about learning through doing. So the Data Academy is made up of a few different components. They're online courses that you're able to take at any time, as well as a really significant workshop component that's up to 2 days of hands-on working through problem solving with real use cases to learn about how to analyze and build insights out of data. That's the Data Academy that was in Dallas in Texas earlier this year. So over the past year, the Socrata Data Academy has worked to have a few different workshops around the country, and it's really just getting started. Robyn's going to talk to you a little bit about what the effect of the Data Academy and her experience in working with the Data Academy in Nashville was, and we're excited about the possibilities of what's to come of taking this data literacy program and adding more layers, especially around leadership and management within and working with data. We have Cord, who is working on Data Academy with us here, as well as Oliver in the room. And we also want to make sure to say a big thank you to AWS, who was able to provide and continues to provide scholarships for having Socrata Data Academy participants at workshops. So if that's interesting to you, thank you to AWS for that. Over the past year with those workshops, we've had over 500 participants who have participated in the courses online as well as in these online workshops. So although it's just getting started, we have reached a number of people, and it's pretty exciting. You'll hear more about that. If you want to check out some of the Data Academy lessons, they're available there for you on dataacademy.socrata.com. Cord has been in Demo Alley, and so you haven't had a chance to talk to him and see more about Data Academy there. I hope that you will. And afterwards, we're all available to talk to you about it as well. Robyn, do you want to share with us a little bit about your work?
Absolutely.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Jessica. Thank you all for coming. It's terrific to be here, and I'm a huge fan of the Data Academy. I've said it several times today and just a few moments ago with my companions at lunch. If we could do Data Academy every week in Nashville, we would. And actually, I happen to notice, I'm not going to embarrass her particularly, but one of our participants in Metro's first Data Academy for Metro Nashville is here. So afterwards, if you are interested in finding out firsthand from someone who's been through it, she might be able to make herself available. Nashville, like Austin and many of our cities, is growing really, really rapidly. In fact, Nashville is a consolidated city-county. And we have about 680,000 people. Actually, our most rapid growth in Nashville occurred between 1960 and 1970 when the population went from 170,000 to 448,000 as a result of consolidation. So while we're growing by 60 or 80,000 people every decade, and a couple of years ago it was 100 people a day, the growth's not quite the growth that immediately accrued from consolidation back in 1963. In our metropolitan statistical area, we have 1.9 million people and 13 counties. And as data becomes more important in our daily lives, it becomes much more important to Metro in terms of how we understand, how we deliver our services to our incredibly expanding population of citizens, and how we do that efficiently and well. And the Data Academy and data literacy are a critical part of that strategy. And in fact, I like to use, I have sort of a fantasy of getting all Metro employees trained in some kind of data literacy and a substantial proportion of them data fluent over the next 9 or 10 years. So let's get started. The way we're working on literacy is a multi-pronged approach. We are a very small but lean and motivated team, and we are willing to use a variety of resources. One of the most valuable to us has been our partnership with Socrata to establish the Data Academy, which so far we've offered twice, and as I mentioned, we would do it all the time if we could. We tried to get our employees to engage with data and address what has emerged as a kind of common theme around the challenges and potentially some fears of inadequacy that our employees have as a result of not having the data infrastructure to necessarily generate the information that they need to make high-level decisions, as well as the skills to be comfortable operating enterprise-wide systems for reporting, for predictive analysis, for any kind of data science applications, and for citizen engagement. And so one of my concerns with my background kind of in university education and government is I want to make sure that Metro Nashville employees are prepared to meet the challenge, not only in their daily jobs, but in terms of how we think about interacting with citizens about the services that we provide to them. And basically what that involves is a huge culture shift. That's a shift from analog to digital. It involves new core competencies. It involves efficiency in time and resources, data-driven decision-making, public-private collaboration and synergies, as well as generating opportunities with data. And so the way that we are getting to that roadmap is through these 4 kind of mechanisms. And the first is our Data Champions Network, which is the departmental data coordinators and data stewards and data advocates who recognize the value of data and are interested in engaging on a monthly basis around developing their skills, but also opportunities for collaboration and identifying kind of gaps in information or systems where Metro would be and its residents would be well served. The Data Champions Network has been started up again since I became Chief Data Officer in July 2016. We meet monthly, and over the past, I'd say 6 to 9 months, we have shifted more from an external lecture to a workshop-based model. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. Again, the Data Academy is a fantastic opportunity to bring either issue-focused group together around transit, or as we did in Nashville, have diverse departments. I believe we've had 21 different departments and about 50 people go through our 2 academies. And I'll talk about some of those results, which I'm pretty excited about because some of those projects that were proposed as exercises actually allowed us to gain some insights in some pretty critical areas for us. We also have just kicked off, starting after our last Data Academy in March, it was February 28th and March 1st, something called Data Days. And basically I wanted to create a time and space that weren't necessarily scheduled, but where people from all parts of Metro and in certain instances, members of the public or our university data partners, to come in and just have time and space to work in what I call almost an informal Metro lab, or get technical assistance, or develop out project ideas. And beginning this summer, we are actually going to switch coordinators meetings to the beginning of that data day So basically from 8 until 3 or 4 in the afternoon, we'll have a variety of activities starting with the coordinators meeting. And I think that will kind of create a synergy and a regularity that will allow people to start to continue the work that arises in these various kind of activities and formats. And then we have a variety of data training opportunities, which we're trying to figure out how to scale and get out to our citizens. The first is through our coordinators, our champion SharePoint site. We have a lot of self-directed training tracks where people can go through steps that we've identified with open source resources, or say, in the example of Excel or excellence in Excel, how they can tap into the free Microsoft training that already exists to do it whenever it's convenient for them rather than scheduling. And that is starting to come online and be very productive. And then also using external sites, like not vendor sites, but things like Data Camp or the Carpentries, which is something that's relatively new to me. There used to be something called data carpentry and software carpentry. It comes out of sort of the library space, and those carpentries have just combined this year to make free curriculums available to librarians to help. Librarians are the original civic switchboards and the kind of trusted information source that most cities have. And so we have a partnership with Vanderbilt Libraries, and we're going to be expanding to our other 14 university libraries, as well as including Metro Nashville libraries, and trying to address the citizen and resident side of data literacy, as well as civic participation. And then we're also working specifically with Metro departments and external organizations around very focused training on specific issues that arise or need to be addressed. And we find that Socrates Data Academy model and the foundational sort of problem-solving framework is excellent. And it's something that after 2 days in the academy, people can take and apply in their own departments. And that's really, really empowering. And it also makes my job as the leader of a 1.75 full-time employment shop a little bit easier, because in Metro we have about 11,000 employees. And if you add the school system, which is a sort of separate entity, we have 18,000 employees, and we're the second largest employer in the Middle Tennessee region. So this is an example from our April 19th Data Academy. It was actually user design and user experience in government, and we had a really fun facilitation from a member of the Federal 18F, and just introducing the concepts about how do we design or redesign government services for residents, because oftentimes institutional processes and activities take on lives of their own, and they become decoupled from the original point of why those activities and services are being provided. So in terms of transparency of information for citizens, or the ability for citizens to track the services that they have requested, we forget sometimes that closing that gap and giving the information not only to solve their problems, but manage their expectations is critically important. And so I thought that this, while it's not a picture of us having a lot of fun at our academies and our monthly activities, and that is one thing I would like to stress. We really try to make it fun, because for a lot of people, especially sort of mid-career people and managers, and especially executives, this can be intimidating. And we think that by making it fun and a bit lighthearted and engaging, it's a lot more compelling, and it's a lot easier to get over some of those self-imposed barriers of, I don't know anything about data, or I don't know anything about math. And one of the things that many people are surprised about with the Academy specifically is that we're learning about a framework and how to use data as a tool for analysis and communication and problem solving. And that's a really valuable lesson. This is a picture from our first Data Academy, and I'll let you identify, there's two usual suspects in the audience from our Academy in September of last year. And I want to talk just a little bit about what happened at that Academy as well as the other Academy. As I mentioned, we had two. Through the course of the 2 days for each Academy, 9 projects were identified and then worked through the Socrata framework. And of those projects, 3 of them have really had legs. One is one document signature away from becoming a funded project for a pretty well-known data science for social good program. I won't give you any more details there, but we're very hopeful that that's going to, and that project was about high users of our emergency transport services, which generates actually quite a lot of unreimbursed transport costs. Anywhere between 27 and 34% of transport costs are recouped from insurance, which means that every year somewhere between $25 and $35 million is not reimbursed. So from the standpoint of being a small program, this is really significant for me because if I can demonstrate that our analysis could potentially save money by redirecting emergency transports into a concurrent care or community paramedicine or nurse-based triage model for what we're spending or not recouping in our non-emergency transports, we could fund a couple more positions to expand these types of activities as well as the services that my team provides. The other project was about police recruiting, and I don't want to go too far into these projects because I see our time is quickly dwindling, but basically in an afternoon, they were able with Post-its and a quick call to human resources because they got so excited they wanted real data because they realized pretty quickly we can take this right back to the deputy chief who runs our division and show him that we are actually hitting our targets in terms of the diversity in recruiting we want, but we're falling apart at the civil service testing stage. And I can talk to you afterwards, or if you'd like to email me later at cdo@nashville.com, I'd be happy to provide you more information. And then the third project that's really had legs and has moved forward is around short-term property rentals and the permitting process as well as the enforcement process. So it's been really, really productive, and even for the projects that haven't gone on to sort of have a longer life and an impact, the model has been especially helpful. And I've already seen members from those data academies collaborating more and starting to generate small data projects of their own to improve processes and improve their ability to report. Data days, this is a picture from our second data day, which was last month, and we had members from Nashville Software School's first data science cohort. They've been working with some of our codes data for quite a while, and since last fall when they started the cohort, they're very close to graduation, so this was a run-up to their capstone project presentations. We have started to record some of our presentations to make them more broadly available. If you have the opportunity to do that, I would suggest that it's a great opportunity to kind of extend the legs and the life of the number of people who can participate. So this was another well-attended. We have people from universities, we have people from various departments, as well as our civic and commercial tech community here as well. And another point of data days, and one of the things that we have to do in Nashville, given our current budget constraints, despite our rapid growth, is to figure out how to do things smarter. So ultimately what I would like to do is for data days, again, to be that time and space where we can start to deploy data science teams from our university partners with whom we have memorandums of understanding. And again, I mentioned we have 15 colleges and universities in the Metro Nashville area. I think we graduate like 15,000 students a year, and we retain, I think, about 60% of those in our population. They don't go back home, they stay in Nashville, which is great for us. We've got a burgeoning tech industry. Most people associate Nashville with country music, but our biggest business is actually healthcare. And 70% of the purchasing power for hospitals in the United States is headquartered in Nashville. So this is a great concept. Next Thursday is our Metro Data Coordinators meeting. We're going to be doing data ecosystem mapping within Metro departments. And then on Friday, our data day brings in some of our university and civic and commercial tech partners, along with some nonprofit partners, to start to put those departmental ecosystems map into a Metro ecosystems map. And we feel that's going to be really, really valuable to see where we can collaborate, where we can cooperate, where the gaps are, and what the infrastructure element and tool elements that we need to fill to be able to allow employees to continue on this process of self-development and self-discovery, right? Possibly slightly directed development. And then finally, in terms of just general training, we are starting to tap into different departments as well as our university and commercial and civic tech partners to do training around a variety of issues, including census training, using Excel, Power BI, storytelling with the Perspectives product. Josh Holloway is one of my colleagues from ITS who's not here, but he's been instrumental in not only launching our Citizen Connect instance, but assisting with the monthly storytelling training that we're doing in person to supplement the online academy's storytelling options. Another thing that we're really interested in is collaborative inquiry, because as Cord likes to point out, big data is relatively new. Data is, again, not a skill set that we have in government, and it's going to take a lot of engagement and a lot of effort to get our 11 to 18,000 employees data literate and data fluent. And so this is sort of how I see the digital and data literacy challenges that we have, and it's sort of 3 categories. And right now, we've been focused mostly on employees and managers because they're the line level people who do the work, but it's also very important for executives and elected officials. And in fact, one of the driving factors of needing to be more data savvy as well as capable of getting reports and useful data tools out in the field is so that elected officials can actually understand what's happening in their various jurisdictions or council districts. I forgot to mention, in Metro we have a mayor-council model, and since consolidation we have 40 council members across 35 districts. So we have a large population, and I think we're about 525 square miles over quite a large area. So having visibility on service requests from a variety of departments is absolutely critical. And so as we move forward with data champions and data academies and our data days, which are really focused on employees and managers who are actively looking for ways to engage and inform our executives as well as our elected officials. And then ultimately, this is all for the residents and the quality of life that we'd like to maintain in Nashville, which has been quite high. Those of us who are more long-term Nashville residents are starting to notice an erosion of some of those qualities because just the pace of growth and the challenges for Metro to keep up with capital budget expenditures and data infrastructure investments and the information that we need to really power the services as well as the smart city challenges that we're going to face. So I think with that, I will just say the way that we're going to get there is internally with our other departments, and these are just sort of a few list of departments, and then externally with the library community. I want to let you all know about a project called Civic Switchboard, which has a great GitHub site and resources. Externally with the university community as well as civic and commercial tech, and then with our neighborhood community and nonprofit organizations. Something that I should have put here but I forgot is you as well, our sort of collaborators in other cities who are engaged with these challenges. I've learned so many things this week, as I always do when I interact with any number of people who are engaged in performance management and data literacy development. And I just wanted to mention a couple of the things that I learned this week. Austin does something called Nerd Shop and Fun Shop, which sounds like pretty directed, almost like data champions meetings, but they get together around kind of project-based fun. And then there's another technique or a set of tools that might be useful to you that would be available through datawalking.org and gamestorming.com and org. So with that, I see we have a few minutes for questions, and I appreciate your time and interest. Thank you. Yes.
I have a question about how much staff you have available for your literacy program, and whether that's staff of your own realm as chief data officer, or you're leveraging people in other departments.
That's a great question. Right now, we are leveraging people in other departments. I mentioned there's 1.75 full-time employees sort of that work for me, but the 0.75 is spread across 3 employees who are a portal technologist, a data science intern, and a content developer. So we rely very heavily right now on civic and commercial tech in our university communities to come in and do, say, the collaborative inquiry data workshop was done by the School Systems Collaborative Inquiry Expert. As I mentioned, 18F, which is the government innovation arm, and GSA came. So we're just looking for great trainers who have some insight that they can share, as well as infuse kind of the excitement to motivate people to want to continue to engage. Ultimately, we do have plans to staff out, and this would be a function that we would do regularly. And we'd like to have an internal model very similar to the Peak Academy out of Denver, as well as kind of ongoing models. The census training model that I mentioned is being co-sponsored by the Census Bureau because they have subject matter experts that will come out and train for you, as well as our Human Relations Commission. So right now, we're very externally dependent. Ultimately, I'd like to have a full-time trainer.
And Robyn, since you're working with staff that are being engaged with this that don't report to you directly, can you talk a little bit about how you were able to get them interested and excited and engaged at the beginning before you had built out these use cases that prove the work?
Absolutely. I think a lot of it has to do with how fun the coordinators meetings are. And when I was in Memphis in a previous position, before I came to Nashville, I started something called Data and Donuts. And so it's really, I entice them with sugar and coffee, I'm not gonna lie, because I think it's important that they're willing to make time for something that is an unfunded mandate, right? Basically, they get appointed as coordinators or stewards, but that may not be a formal part of their job description. So a lot of it is really appealing to people's curiosity and their sense of engagement and wonder, and I think a really untapped kind of recognition that people want to continue to learn, and they want to continue to develop, and they want to be able to do their jobs better, and they want to be able to make our city improve. So I feel like if you can just get them in the time and space and get them the tools and information that they need to start thinking about it, I don't think they need me. I think people are pretty self-motivated when they see a path and they feel like they're empowered to do it. And so we try to create that environment where it's fun and it's worthwhile, and we see that we're making small incremental progress, and I expect over the next 2 or 3 years our network will continue to grow, and our academy participants, I see her, I'm not looking at her, but I see her nodding, they're becoming leaders in their departments in their own right, and they're going to be the ones who make a difference, not me. And so I will tell you, when I got this job, and my husband said, well, how big is your staff? And I said, well, right now it's just me. And he said, well, that means, that's great. He said, that means that you work for everyone in Metro, but everyone in Metro works for you. And so I think of it as a way to sort of tap into all of our collective desire to make our city better.
Any other questions? I think there's one question.
How do you determine who to invite to the Data Academy? In other words, how do you find the data nerds or the people who will continue the data work?
That's a great question, and again, would that I had total control over everyone's schedule and I could handpick. We decided the best strategy was, we know we have a few key departments that have data we want to unlock, and problems that are consistent problems that are reported to the mayor, reported to Hub Nashville. So we selected departments that we thought were really critical to be engaged, and then we let the department director decide who to send. And so that has worked for us very well. I know in future data academies, I would love to have them be issue-based. I mean, some of them be issue-based, and then some of them be self-selecting into topics that they're interested in, because I do believe that most adults like to do things that they like to do. And so if you can tap into the desire that's already there, you're halfway home. But I would like to convene a data academy around homelessness specifically, and then bring those specific agencies in. But right now, it's a strategic yet broad-based approach.
And I think that initiative-based or kind of single topic-based data academy, we're seeing with some other organizations that we're planning with now. They're thinking more about how to have data academy around a specific topic and inviting those people who know about those topic areas to really work hard on one problem for a series of days and see what comes out of that. So,
and I will say, we thought about doing that for the second data academy. Logistically, that's really hard, and then just in terms of they have their ongoing working groups and regular schedule. And then, again, I don't own any of the data, and I don't necessarily own any problems. My job is really to work on governance and work on tools and work on infrastructure. And so we just weren't at that stage where we could go to the homelessness working group or the housing working group because of a variety of exciting things that are happening in Metro this year, including a transit referendum on May 1st that did not pass. So we were a little bit constrained by those factors, but we will be applying that approach in the future.
It sounds like the way that you approached it by getting direct people to come from all the different organizations nominated by the directors, that you were able to result in 3 different topics that are use cases that are getting followed up on. So
absolutely, and I think that multi-departmental look at a specific problem is really helpful because you get insight that you never would have thought of because you're so concerned with your day-to-day. One of my favorite examples of this is the truck that gets stuck under the bridge and the engineers come out, and Public Works comes out, and everybody's trying to figure out how to get the truck under the bridge, and the kid who's standing there says, why don't we let the air out of the tires? And so sometimes it could be as simple as that, and I don't mean to be facile about it because our problems are really complex, but the advantages and cross-pollination that come from people who don't see problems the same way is really productive.
yeah, getting them in the same room and collaborating together.
Exactly.
Give them the space to do that. Great. Well, thank you, Robyn.
Thank you.
I think that we... Are you going to wrap it up, Bridget, or should I wrap it up?
You say your words. I'll come up.
Please.
Yep.
Just, I'm Oliver, and this is the Hall to My Oats, Core Davis. So if you want Socrata Data Academy to come to a government near you, come get us.
That's right. Well said.
I'll be in Demo Valley in about a half hour. Then please come by and pick up some information. I'm happy to talk about it all day long. And if you pick up a card, there's a discount on the back. So.
Cool. And there's one more question.
So
I'll go grab a stack.
I had a question, well, about the Data Academy. Is that a one day? I'm just trying to figure out how we would do this.
It's now structured as 2 days.
2 days? Okay.
There's some flexibility there, but like as it's designed, it's 2 days.
So we have a core group of data liaisons, which we had gathered up to sort of get people excited about open data before we even opened our portal. And what we found was we did have a few people that were in love with data. And we had a lot of people that were just an admin that somebody was like, oh, you keep that Excel spreadsheet. So you come on in. And so did you find that you had to structure your learning to like really different levels of understanding?
Absolutely, and one of the challenges, and I think really good training and learning opportunities actually appeal to a broad range of people. So the really skilled ones see different nuances or have opportunities to take on different roles in terms of mentorship or leadership or practicing their skills to help structure those things and then also make a welcoming environment for people who don't feel so comfortable. So that's something that we think about quite a lot. And so I showed a picture from Data Day, and some of the analysis was pretty rough for some of the people in the audience because cleaning data is mind-boggling. I mean, these students spent weeks cleaning this data, and the description obviously didn't take that long, but it sort of felt like it did because I could tell they were losing some of the audience. But when we came back to this is how we analyze the data, or these are what the operational implications are, everyone snapped back in. So, I mean, you have to be careful to find the right balance and not be to present things as too easily done, you know, and give them some real insight and opportunities, but also, you know, make sure that you can address the whole range of issues because it's going to take us all, and it's going to take the skilled data knowers and doers to lead their departments.
Okay, so I think if there's any other questions, I hope that you will find Robyn and Oliver and Cord and get Data Academy to your city soon. Thank you all.